You can start the stream. That's it. All right, I think we are, yeah, I think we're good. Whatever you did, Lenny. Worked. All right, thank you everyone for your patience. We're going to call the meeting to order and we will start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. Hope everyone's staying cool. Just a reminder, if there's anyone listening or watching, if you are too hot, you are welcome to use some town buildings to cool off, like the town offices, the town library, etc. We will start as normal by reviewing and signing payroll and accounts payable. For the period ending 6/15/24, we had payroll in the amount of $34,671.73. We had accounts payable in the amount of $86,190.75. We did have our standard ACH payments. We had one to Swayze for $464,138. We had one to the co-op for $648,932. And we had New Hampshire Retirement for $61,475.58. John, I'll pass that to you.
Stole your pen.
That's fine. Oh yeah, and then when you're done with the back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your patience.
I didn't know.
Have a good
Joyce.
night.
Sorry, Joyce.
No worries.
Next, I'll take a motion to review and approve the consent agenda.
Moved.
Second.
Included in tonight's consent agenda are public minutes from 6/4, public minutes from 6/17, non-public minutes from 6/17, which are sealed, the rec manifest, the treasurer's report, and building permits. Any discussions or questions?
Nope.
All in favor of approving the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so that passes. We will move on to public comment. We will open public comment at 6:35 p.m. Anybody who's interested, please come to the front table and make sure the microphone is on. Anyone interested? Looks like a no. So we will close public comment at 6:35 and move on to discussion action items. And first on the list, we have Fire Department Chief Byrd. Request for expenditure from the ambulance fund. Hi there, good evening.
Hi. 2 chairs even.
Oh, huh? Hey. So we are looking to purchase from the ambulance fund 2 ventilators, one for each of our ambulances. I don't know, I think you guys have all the copies.
Yeah.
Mostly, we don't necessarily use a ventilator a lot for like somebody that's intubated, but they can be used to do CPAP and BiPAP.
Nice.
And we can do CPAP now. We cannot do BiPAP right now because we use like a disposable CPAP.
What do those mean?
Sorry.
It's okay.
So CPAP stands for continuous positive airway pressure.
Yep.
And it's something that we use on people that are in respiratory distress or respiratory failure.
Mhm.
We use it actually quite frequently. EMTs can use it now, even with genetic skill.
Kind of keeps your airways.
Well, I've heard of it from like nighttime.
Yes,
Sleeping.
yes.
But like,
same
I'm
idea.
assuming,
Same exact thing.
but just while
Used in an
there.
emergency.
Okay.
Yes, yep, and BiPAP is about the same thing. It's just the inhalation pressure and the exhalation pressure are different.
Okay.
So it's a little more like advanced, but
It's kind of like non-invasive ventilatory support for
Sure.
emergency.
Just to get you to the place that can help you more. Okay.
exactly, yep. But it can also, the ventilator can also be used if someone is in cardiac arrest and I have intubated them, we can use it instead of someone having to bag them with a BVM, we can hook them up to the ventilator. So we had a gentleman from Zoll come in and several, I don't know, maybe 6 or so in the area have purchased these from Zoll to use mostly for the CPAP. And so he came in and showed us, this is really the only one that is available for EMS. They do have plenty of other ventilators, but they go up significantly in price and have way more functions than we would need on the ambulance. So this is specifically for EMS use and pre-hospital use. Like I said, we do have the funds in my ambulance fund to buy them. We are just looking for permission to actually do that.
Are these replacing ventilators we'll take out of service? Are they in addition? Are they new services we haven't had? I mean,
They
the
will
BiPAP
be
is
new.
new.
Yes, they will be new. The BiPAP will we are able to use CPAP, but we use like an O2 cylinder.
Oh, gotcha. So not
We
as
don't have any,
expensive.
yep. And we've never had ventilators before. They've always been something that's really expensive, and this is fairly new on the market, catered towards EMS use.
Gotcha.
And a little bit, less expensive and more affordable for us. We would like to purchase one for each ambulance. I know it's kind of, the quote is kind of confusing. He explained it to me in the way that they had to do it. The service plan, if it doesn't make sense, is for 5 years, and it doesn't start until after the first year, so that wouldn't be included in the initial upfront cost. I think I attached the email from the.
Oh, okay. So the 21,000, it's really the 14,000 that you would
Correct.
pay out now.
Correct, yep, per ventilator, yeah.
And it's like a 1-year warranty, and then the service plan starts a year later.
That's correct, yep.
Would you come back to us in a year for the service plan, or would you want approval for it now in advance?
What do you think, Chief?
You know,
Probably go for it now.
That way it gets slid into a budget and it's all. taken
Yeah.
care of.
But it would be, it would be about $1,520 per ventilator per year for the service plan, starting a year from now.
How much is in that ambulance fund right now?
It says quantity 1, unless I'm looking at the wrong
Yes,
line.
no, you are, that would be for one. This is a quote,
Okay.
he quoted us just for one.
Okay, but this other stuff you wouldn't need more than one of, or you would need more than one of some of these other things as well?
You would, so for each like ventilator system, we would need all of these things listed here.
Okay, so the total expenditure would be 43,000-ish, doubling that 21,691.
Yes, correct. But it wouldn't be like, that wouldn't be the initial, like, I'm not gonna write him a check for that.
Right.
It would be, yeah. It'd be 28,183.
Karen, what's the best way from a budgetary perspective if there were to be a cost incurred a year from now out of the same fund? And we'll have a different board potentially. Should we hold on that?
I
or-
would just pay the lump sum upfront because the way that it's invoiced, you can pay the 5 years
Now.
upfront.
Or we can approve it
Are you
now.
opposed
and if
to that?
Yeah.
Because they do have it. It is
They
kind of
do.
mocked up as you paying it now.
Yes, right.
And then we don't have to worry about it for 5 years.
I'd be happy to do it that way too.
Yep,
That
that's
would
fine.
probably be cleaner, so
I
that you don't
agree.
have to come back and remember.
And yeah, sure, explain it. Yeah, yeah.
Are you doing your math there? So you get your calculator out.
So there's $552,000 in the account, and the expenditure request would be $43,383.24. So that is 2 ventilators plus 5-year warranty for each.
Okay. You said there's 552?
Yes.
Any concerns? It sounds like there's no real other sort of price estimates because this is sort of the only one that's made for EMS.
Correct. Yeah.
He
I
quoted us
attempted-
one for, like she said, there's another one, 3 times as many
It's
bells
made by
and whistles.
Hamilton.
And,
More than
It
you need
runs
for
it-
EMS.
right, runs about 5 or 6 grand more than
Okay.
that. Matter of fact, they were a little upset that he's come out with something.
Oh, okay.
So,
Gotcha. Any questions or concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so you guys are all set. Thank you for
Thank you
bringing
very
it up to
much.
us. It's nice to hear we're gonna have additional services for
Yes,
EMS.
right?
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Next, we have Chief Ventura with a couple of topics. Come on up.
You're not gonna make him come up too?
Bringing friends?
Brought friends.
Officer Spitaleri, come on up.
Corporal Spitaler is my expert on cruisers and technology, so
Okay.
he's here to maybe answer any questions. So first thing I'd like to address is the hawkers, peddlers, and vendor ordinance. I've learned some things since we presented this with another ordinance last time that I did not know, that the noise ordinance would have to go for a town vote. I did not realize that, and thankfully the town administrator
Just
pointed that out.
statutory wise.
Statutory wise, yes. And I've always relied on the disorderly conduct statute to supplement any noise ordinance, so we still have protections. And we'll decide when we get closer to town meeting and warrants and so forth. But I still have the hawkers and peddlers ordinance in play. And my understanding is because we're not a city, 10,000 or over, we don't have to have 2 consecutive public meetings. There was some recommended changes last time in some of the verbiage. Most of them were actually for the noise ordinance. This hawkers and peddlers describes the current statutes that are applicable. We took out the language that referenced the old statute that
right,
we
yep.
pointed out. Other than that, it's the same one that you folks were presented with the last time. And we're just asking for your vote to approve this ordinance. And again, it's really in the matter of public safety and public alarm. So that when people call us or the town hall, we have an awareness of who's in our town selling.
And so the monetary implication of this is there's an application fee of $100.
Yeah, it's not
And
prohibitive.
if someone is found to be operating in town without that application, there's a $500 fine.
$500 fine, yes. And that,
I love that it has the lemonade stand exclusion.
yes.
You've heard about that in some towns.
Oh, yes, we
Turn
have.
into a
Yeah, we're not
finish.
coming after your kids. And the 500, not that this matters, but just for your informational purposes, all fines from town ordinances come back to the town. They don't go to the state. Not that I expect a lot of fines out of this, but there are particularly a couple of statutory requirements that the fines go to the town. Ordinances being one.
Karen, do you have any concerns at all about this or the wording of it? And it sounds like we are clear by statute to not have to do town meetings or
Correct.
public hearings. or anything
Correct.
like that. Board member questions, comments? We could move forward with this, or we could wait to our next meeting where we have a full board. Whatever your preference is.
I think it makes sense to wait till we have a full board.
Do you feel any
For the
dire
hawkers and peddlers?
time urgency?
I don't know. We do have someone who's a law enforcement officer.
The only concern Andy had at that last meeting was just removing the statute that was in there.
Which I think looks like it was,
Oh, okay.
right?
Yep.
Then yeah.
Does anyone have any concerns?
No,
I think it's
never
pretty
mind.
straightforward that this is a,
Make a motion.
Motion.
Second.
okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so we are good to implement the hawkers, peddlers, and itinerant vendor ordinance.
Super.
Okay, great.
Okay, so next topic I'd like to address is the shift differential pay. From a administrative view of the shift differential, it's really a pain to submit timesheets. It's a lot of extra work for Jillian to do the timesheets when there's shift. It's the most confusing pay sheet I've ever seen, actually. Because you have all these different, because we have,
Let's pretend that I don't know what this is.
yes, okay, thank you. Shift differential,
The facial expression was key.
yeah, so shift differential is you get an extra monetary amount per hour if you work either 3 to 11,
Mm-hmm.
or the afternoon, or the overnight shift.
Okay.
The overnight shift is $1.25, and the evening shift is 75?
$1.
Or $1, so it's a 25%.
Okay.
But if you work those 2 shifts,
Okay.
you get an extra $1 or 74, whatever.
Because they're not desirable shifts.
Because they're not desirable shift. What that does, though, is it creates a nightmare. Because if you have an officer that works from, say, 12 to midnight, or 12 to 2 in the morning, they now have 3 different pays for that one shift. They've got the day pay, they've got the evening pay, and then they have that extra hour or 2 of the overnight pay. It's a nightmare.
What would you like to propose?
I would like to, Karen ran some numbers for me in terms of what the average, now, I only really had 2023 for stats. Because in 2022, we weren't full staff. In 23, we were full staffed, and that was the most realistic look at how it affects us. So what it boils down to is, in order to eliminate that and make everybody sort of almost whole, not everybody, it would be 82 cents an hour for each employee. What my thought is to just round that to $1 raise for each employee per hour. That will make them whole on however many shifts that they did. It would have been very intensive to break down, say, Officer Kelly and how many shifts he works versus Officer, Carey or anybody. So we did an overall average. And the average would be to make them almost whole is 82 cents an hour. And I figured the round figure would be $1 an hour.
Is there approximate equity in who does night shifts, or are there some guys that do more?
It really doesn't, it really depends on where you start the year in your shift, because they rotate every 3 months.
Right.
So if somebody starts the year off with midnights, they may get another midnight rotation. So that's why I said the 82 cents almost makes everybody whole. If it were just constant, everybody did 1 rotation of mids and 1 rotation of that, but it doesn't always happen.
But if you look at it over 24 months or whatever, is there divergence between 2 people's schedule, or at the end of a big lump of time, will each of your officers have basically worked the same amount of nights and evenings and days?
If you work it long enough, yeah. I don't
Okay.
think you can fit it in a 12-month
There's not
period.
certain guys that say, oh, I really like nights, I work way, way, way more nights. than
No,
I
because we have a
here."
safety issue with nights too.
Okay.
If I have somebody on midnights too long, I'm generally going to pull them off.
Okay,
Because when I started my career, I was on for 3 years and it was miserable. Right? We don't do that anymore.
okay,
We just don't.
okay.
So I have to be cognizant of that also.
So, are you trying to fix an administrative problem? Like a paper problem?
Well, yes and no. I mean, it is a pain for us downstairs. I think it's more of a pain up here. Because don't forget, we also have regular pay rate, we have detail pay rate for one company, and then we have another detail rate for the rest of the companies.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot to go, and there's a lot more areas for mistakes to happen. And I think that we tracked that with the addition of this, in the amount of hours that it would save per week payroll, it works out much better. So there's actually something to gain in hourly work from another employee. And there's also something to gain from whoever does payroll downstairs from that, that they don't have to spend all of that time. Because oftentimes, the guys do their best to fill them out accurately, but oftentimes the detailed schedule says that you were here then, but you only worked then. And then the schedule says this, but there was a change because somebody had to come in late or leave early. And a lot of times they got to track people down because the shift differential is there, right? Versus just going on your 12 hours.
It also affects their overtime rate because their overtime rate is calculated based on a weighted average. So if in any particular week they work more third shift, their overtime rate, their time and a half rate would be slightly higher than if they worked their base rate.
And this would standardize it.
And this would standardize it, so they'd have 1 rate plus the time and a half rate and then their detail rate, and that's it.
So from a budgetary
be
perspective
fairly
and planning,
neutral.
it's easier to. You can just take raw numbers
Right.
rather than weighted averages.
And it should be have a pretty minimal impact on overall budget, right? Because you're just averaging it all out.
Yeah, it's what we're spending now anyway.
Right.
At the end
Changing
of the
round
day,
accurate,
it's just
'cause
changing.
That sounds accurate. It doesn't really change the budgetary
Correct.
No,
outlay very much.
no. And it'll be easier for me to give you a total number next year.
Right.
It's one
I would
step.
assume it would make budgeting easier?
Well, much easier, because right now we have to have a whole separate worksheet for those shift differentials, which is a pain. I'm trying to simplify our budget worksheet, which has
So if
been
you're
a.
trying to take away a worksheet, you're not speaking my language.
Yeah, no, I mean, the worksheet we have, granted, it works. It's very complex, and I don't think it needs to be as complex as it is, and this is just one.
Have you floated this by your officers and?
Yep, we just
they-
spoke about it, and they're all,
They're in favor,
Yep.
nobody's.
nobody had
disgruntled?
anything negative to say about it. They're like, okay, we get that, you know?
What if
Go ahead.
we tried just having two slots instead of 3?
I mean, it's still complicated, there's no question, but,
Mhm.
and then what's that slot?
Oh,
Is it from 3 till 6 in the morning? I don't know,
I don't know.
you know? Because
I don't know when your shifts typically are.
Yeah, our shifts are, well, I mean, the normal shifts that you'll see in most PDs, you have a day, an evening, and an overnight shift.
Mhm.
Those may change slightly depending upon the department's resources. So like right now, our day shift comes in at 6 a.m.
Mhm.
Okay, so that sets the tone for the rest of the day. You know, you're 6 to 4 o'clock. So then the next shift comes in at 4 and works another 10 hours.
But then that hits 3 shifts, right? Because from 6A to 7A is third shift, 7A to 3 is first shift, and then 3 to 4 is second shift.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. Like, if we just decide that 10 to 6 a.m. is that night shift, that overnight time. Then if you're working those hours, then you would get the differential, and if you're working any other hours, you wouldn't.
See, but then I'm taking away that shift differential that we had from 3. And that's why we had 2 different ones, because the 3 to 11 or 4 to 12 or however you work it is a difficult shift, because you can't, you know, you don't function normally like everybody else in an 8 to 5 environment. So that's why we gave that for that. And then we had the overnight one, which generally people don't want to work.
Yeah, I mean, I think if your goal is to simplify it and there's no fairness or equity issues that get created, which it sounds like there's
No.
not, and it doesn't have a budgetary impact.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure I see that unless the guys really felt like, oh,
Well,
we
and this
like
is-
the idea of a shift.
What
differential.
are the current? Do you have what are the current salary or what are the current hourly rates? Like what?
You said there was $1.25 different or something.
The overnight is $1.25, the evening shift is. So at an average rate of, what is it, 75 cents? Is that what, between the two?
Between the
No.
3.
Yeah, between the 3 shifts, the average rate extra is 75 cents for all 3 shifts combined.
I think it seems to make sense to simplify it, reduce errors, reduce payroll time, as long as we know that all the officers take approximately the same shifts over time, because
They
if there
do.
was a divergence, it would
They
start
have
being
to.
unfair.
They have to.
Yeah.
You know, I still need guys that know how to work a flashlight and guys who know how to say good morning to the public. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You kind of have to refine those skills after you've been on midnight
Sure.
for a while,
Sure,
because you talk to yourself a lot.
yeah,
So,
got it.
And then why the go from 75 cents to $1?
well, the average to fix the problem would be 82 cents. But again, that's not going to make everybody whole in the 1 year. It's going to take closer to 18 months for all of the schedules.
Maybe. Yes. You know I love a good spreadsheet. So that's how. So it's not 125 plus $1 divided by 3.
No, it's,
No, if you take 0, $1, and
Right.
So that's how I factored out the rate for overtime.
Yes. Hold on.
Because overtime, there's no way to go back unless we pull each individual timesheet. There's no way to track back in this system. With these overtime hours were accrued
I see. I see.
Oh, I
the
see.
average.
Yeah.
I see.
And-
These are actual hours.
and it makes it easier from a budgeting standpoint throughout the year. Because
Sure.
we get expense sheets every month. And it gives me an actual picture of what I'm going to be looking forward to versus what I have. That makes it a lot easier.
And this is only for full-time officers. This doesn't account for the part-timers or the retirees.
Okay.
So when we say that there's no budgetary impact, is there really no budgetary impact?
No,
It'll
not
flush
that I-
itself out.
Because the overtime drops for some people as well, right? So it's like cancels out, it sounds like.
The overtime is the kicker in there because, you know, you know, we have people that work overtime. I have a healthy overtime budget, thanks to you folks. That's where we kind of even it out.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I do wish Andy was here just to get his input, given his experience.
Do you want to bump it to the next meeting?
Is there any time?
There's no time. I promised I would never put anything like a rush on you.
I did ask him. I said, don't bring us time-sensitive things, chief.
Yeah,
Please.
no, and if it is, you'll get a lot of notice.
Why don't we bump this? I think it sounds like the right thing to do, but we might as well just have the full board bless it because it is a significant change in how we do our budgeting.
Is what I presented you in terms of an explanation and the numbers that Karen gave you enough for you folks for next meeting, or is there something else you'd like?
Yeah, but you may have to do it again.
No,
No.
I'm fine with explaining it again, but is there some other bit of?
No, I
I
like
think
numbers.
that's-
It helps me to understand.
Okay,
Yeah,
so you
I
got
think
what
that's
you need.
helpful.
All right. I just don't want to show up with what you don't.
Yeah,
need.
no, I think that's
Okay,
helpful.
super.
So we'll just bump it so we have all of us here.
Yeah.
Okay?
Karen, what was the other agenda I had?
I would love
Army
to
surplus.
for
Oh,
whatever-
thank you, geez, I forgot it last time.
spreadsheet work.
Whenever you folks are ready,
Yep, go
I'll
ahead.
go on to the next slide. So, several years ago, predating me, the town, or the PD rather, was able to secure through those Army grants some free equipment. Being in this business long enough, I never saw the importance of grabbing that stuff just because it was free. Because what happens to it is invariably what we have just experienced in Brentwood. It's collecting dust, mice, bugs, dirt, barnacles, whatever over there. And it's behind the highway shed taking up space.
What kind of equipment?
There's a big truck over there, a transport Army truck. There is a watchtower. Why we ever needed a watchtower that only went up 20 feet in Brentwood?
That might be fun.
The watchtower does have a generator.
Karen wants it.
Yeah. Other than to write the song, I don't think we need a watchtower. So there's that has a built-in generator that has 1,100 hours on the generator. Those are hard hours in the desert. And then we have another freestanding generator that has just as much on it. So I brought in what I consider the area expert. I brought in Chris Bashaw, who's the number 2 up at the sheriff's office. If anybody of you have ever driven by his house, it's big because he's got military surplus equipment all over the place. He's very knowledgeable in this. So I said, Chris, would you come look at this and tell me what it's worth? And he came, and the first thing he says, oh, boy.
Uh-oh.
But he knew exactly which hatches to open, where the manufacturer parts came from. He schooled me totally. But what was more important is he told me he really pays attention to the internet and what these pieces normally sell for, because that's where they mostly sold is on the internet. And he gave me the prices of the things that were out there that were selling brand new. Well, like new, rather, none of them are brand new. Basically, we have a big hunk of metal scrap. So he offered to give us $2,500 for the heap, and I'm more than happy with that. I'm going to give it away if I had to, because it's just we'll
We have
never,
zero
we
use
will
for any of
never
it.
use it. And all I'm asking for is to, number one, to give permission to let that go, but to filter it back through the police association, because it was never a town expense to gain this equipment. It was free. So the town didn't expend anything to get it. I think it was even delivered to us. So I'm asking to filter that through the police association, and the police association, if they so choose, can supplement some minor equipment purchases with $2,500. At least give them the opportunity. I have no say in the association. I don't have a vote. I can't be. But we have an understanding of, everybody knows some of the things that we need. But I'd like to be able to have that in the association piggy bank so we can use it. It doesn't go to the general fund.
And the association bank would be for future use in Brentwood,
Only future use.
only for Brentwood,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Questions or comments from the board?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. We will give away the watchtower for 20, well, not give away, sell, even better.
Right.
The watch, sorry, Karen. You
That's
got
okay.
along. Okay.
Yeah, no worries. I do have one final item that didn't make it to the agenda. I discussed it yesterday, though. I did say yesterday, remember?
Yes,
Okay.
I said you could put it on the agenda, chief,
Yeah,
but okay, go
That-
ahead.
That was my mistake.
No,
Sorry,
I didn't get
I'm
it
just
this
yanking
time.
your chain. Go ahead.
Anyway, several weeks ago now, I asked for a large portion or a large expenditure out of the ARPA funds and since withdrew that request. And I told you I'd be coming back for a smaller. Well, the smaller is a third of that request. So my request is for $25,000. And this is for, these aren't wants, these are needs that, a couple of them were already scheduled at the end of last year. But we had two of our older cruisers go down and I spent $4,000 in 1 month on cruiser maintenance, cruisers, so we had to push them. I have a list here of those needs. About $12,000 is to update two of the older cruisers, as well as get the lieutenant's cruiser up to snuff. It's got dated lights, dated everything in it, so we need money for that. We would like to buy a couple of stop sticks. Those are the things that we throw out in the road for a pursuit. Those are about $800 a piece.
Would have like the spikes.
Yeah, they have the spikes, yep. Yeah, we have a couple, but I'll tell you, like the supervisor cars don't have any, which is a problem. If you've noticed, we've started wrapping all the cruisers with the new paint scheme, and we'd like to finish that so we all look uniform. I was never a fan of the black.
How much is, or I'll just.
Yeah, and then the active threat kits, those are to put in the cruisers for something like could be either a mass shooting or even a single gunshot wound for sucking wounds. And it's equipment that we carry in the cruisers, but we need more. And then finally, this includes 2 patrol room workstations. We've had the budget committee coming through lately, and it's funny that they commented on what we have for works. We have laptops. Right, and those laptops are old and they have a useful life. We'd like to get actual workstations that have a central unit and we're not having laptops now. Regular computers like most agencies have. So that's the list I have, and that amounts to up to 25. I think it's about $200 short of that. But that's for 25.
Any of those things that you just listed appropriate for your current budget line items, or are all of these outside of your current budget?
These are, well, I mean, if I put the cruiser stuff in mine, it'll blow apart my maintenance budget
Right.
altogether. So
Yep.
it's not in the budget.
Okay.
So the
Um,
12K is definitely would be above your,
Yeah, that would be
maintenance line.
way
Yep.
above.
Yep.
Um,
How about any other stuff? I'm just trying to figure out, you know, we've got
Oh, yeah.
ARPA dollars, we've got budgetary dollars.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
how to
I mean,
make
if I
those-
had to cram the stop sticks and the armor kits in there for about 3,000, I could probably do that. You know, but the patrol room workstations, I mean,
I could pay for those out of the capital reserve fund for IT hardware.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, that's
maybe.
kind of where they should come from, right? That's the reason why we.
So the laptops could potentially come out of IT hardware.
How much, do you know how much you have left in your budget?
in my budget,
55%.
right, which is right where we're supposed to.
So right about,
That's exactly where we're supposed to be.
yep.
That 55% was as of the middle of this month. So by the end of this month, it'll be at 50%, and we'll
Okay.
be right at
Okay.
6 months.
Yeah, so you don't have a lot of.
So I'm real tight at the moment.
Yep.
That's why I'd rather not pull those stop sticks and heavy armor kits out of my budget if I can avoid it.
Lois, mute that guy.
Whoever it is.
Oh.
There you go.
Yeah, so if you can mute it, that'd be great. So laptops could come out of IT hardware potentially. We're just thinking, you know, ARPA is such a unique source of funds that
Sure.
if we have other ideas, you know, we want to.
No, and that's why I bring it to you folks, because you
Yep.
have the
How
power to
much were the
spend.
2 workstations?
The price I have is 3,000.
Around 3K for that.
I see that.
And then the cruisers plus the finished painting is about how much? 12K for maintenance, updates, what was the painting?
Yep, let me just get to rewrap, to continue the wrap process is about $4,500.
45.
Yeah. So if you
It's
took
about
out the,
16, 17,000 right there.
so if I took out the patrol room workstations and I spent another, let's say I took the heavy armor kits, that leaves about 20,000 as a request.
You know how much I love you guys, and have been a huge supporter.
Sure.
But as Jen was saying, like, I just see this as a unique opportunity where we can use funds to generate revenue for the town in certain regards, or do projects that really aren't budgeted but could really benefit the community. And that's really where, with the limited resources that we have in ARPA, that's just where my head is at the moment, given the police budget, of where we've been, where we've gone, really in just the last couple of years. So that's just my.
Okay. Sure.
Too?
Please do.
I don't know.
I don't know yet. Let's see what it is. I'm
As-
kidding.
As far as the lieutenant's cruiser, I guess I'll start with the lieutenant's cruiser. If he gets called out at night, he can't use his lights. He can't see.
Okay, so that was gonna be my question.
He
There's,
also,
There's an immediate
he
safety.
does, as far as his car is concerned, he does still go on the road. He can't stop anybody for speed because his radar doesn't work. It doesn't give a tone, and the back unit is not screwed in because it snapped off.
and I'm guessing it's been like that for a minute.
He's had it, that was issued to
Yeah.
him now.
Right, so
This was one of the ones that was scheduled at the end of last
And
year.
as
we
far
had
as
to
the
pull it.
Charger is concerned, which is no fault of, because Chief inherited it, and obviously we had no control over it when it was made in 2020. All of our cars have push bumpers on them, and those bumpers have saved us from totaling cars when we smack all the deer. That has no bumper. There is no, and because it's low pro, which was not our decision either, there is
Low pro means no lights
no
on
light
the
bar on
top.
top. There is no side lighting on it. So when we clear an intersection, we just look like a normal cop car that you can't see the lights going through. And our guys have almost been smacked on it, and they clear the
Right.
intersection the way they're supposed to. So the light bar and the bumper for that is really kind of, and again, that has low pro lighting, so at night or in fog or in rain, our guys can't see the road, and I've driven that car.
Sure.
the
Is that the
blow-
bulk of
it's the
that
blowback.
12,000 that's quoted there?
That's
Those things you
6,000.
just mentioned?
Yeah, it's the bulk of it.
So,
Supervisor
hold on.
cruisers, the supervisor cruiser is the, kind of a similar thing, but that, the 6,000 for that is,
I don't want to think
suspension.
No, I
So
mean,
we-
all of this is obviously like
Right.
super important and reasonable and safety issues. And I mean, you guys know exactly where I personally stand on every element of it. But just like, as I've said here with highway, it's kind of like none of those things have just popped up, I would think, right? And so that's why we do that budgetary process
Oh,
every
yeah.
year. And we have, like, those are obligations of the town to keep you guys safe.
Oh, yeah.
We
Okay.
100% need to do those. And this board and the budget committee would be 110% behind it every single time. But that's what I'm saying, like, I want us to have a little bit more forward vision on
Sure.
some of those items so that we're not kind of trying
In this situation again?
to fit the, because
Oh, no, that's been my goal since
you know,
day one, is to
yeah.
improve the equipment. And like I said, this was slated budgetary wise last year. This
Yeah.
was slated. But I had to make a command decision and either fix the cruisers that were in line on the road 24/7,
Mhm.
or fix the lieutenants or the other cruiser, you know. I had to make some tough decisions. So I get your forward thinking, because I'm always thinking.
So you're gonna like and not like my question. I'm so sorry. So if this was supposed to happen last year, let's just do it this year. I don't wanna fix old broken cars. Let's just buy you a new one. The thing that you are probably gonna like. The thing that you might not like is, did you come before the select board and say, hey, these things are happening, this car's broken, I'm gonna be tight on my budget, I was supposed to buy a car, I can't buy a car anymore? Did that happen?
No, because I figured with what I had, I could limp it to this year with what we had, you know. But I mean, you know, would it be nice for the lieutenant's car to be up to date? Yes. Was it an absolute necessity over fixing the inline cars? No,
But why couldn't you do both, I guess, is what I'm, like,
because I asked for a lot. And I tried to be very careful about what I asked for. I really, really tried to come in with almost a level funded budget outside of salaries. Because you guys have been so generous with personnel particularly. So I was trying to be light last year, I'll be honest with you. Did it work out
but
great?
like, why are we,
It would have if we didn't have cars break down, but that's
I
part of
don't
what I'm
love the
trying to
idea
do.
of pouring $12,000 into cars that are gonna be replaced in the next few years.
Well, I can tell you the lieutenant's car won't be replaced in in a couple years. It's only got 40,000 miles.
Okay, so when will that one get replaced?
Probably not. At least,
All of your cars are gonna get replaced in
oh,
5
yes.
years. So,
Well,
so
I
2
mean,
years, 3
I would
years?
say his is probably on the 5-year mark, at 40,000 miles a year. And I'm just guessing.
No, I know. So I guess, and this kind of goes to what you were talking about. If you have a fleet of 10 cars and your cars last about 5 years, that means you should be buying 2 new cars every year.
Well, that's what I'm coming to in the budget process this year.
I hear you.
Just so you know.
But it's better to budget it than do these.
But I'm
one-off.
not gonna budget 2 a year. I'm gonna budget 1 a year for 2 years, and then in the third year, it'll be 2. It'll be a cycle of 3. That's my plan on paper. That's what the numbers are telling me and everything, but we discussed that.
But how many did you buy this year?
We got 2.
One cruiser and the supervisor's vehicle.
This year or last year?
I'm
Last year.
sorry, last year.
So this year, none.
This year, we got the one that we ordered we ordered that last year. Right?
Ordered it last year.
So
Car,
this year's
the new
budget,
car.
none.
The one we just got, we ordered last year
Last
was
year.
delayed.
Yeah.
And did we get the soup card this year?
We got the supervisor card this year.
But that
That's the only
was
one we got,
impact.
and that was impact fees.
Oh, that's right.
But this will, like, just to give you an example.
I
car
literally
4
want to buy you a new car. Like
Just
I
give you an
don't.
example, car 4 and car 6.
$75,000.
Well, it needs to go in the budget, though.
Yeah,
No,
car 4 and car
We
6
gave
have to,
Wayne a plow without it being in the budget.
No, it was 98% of that was a warrant article. This is not, this is totally outside of that. It was, he had a warrant article for that vehicle.
what
we did
you're
not have one for police
experiencing now is what I'm trying to avoid down the road. You see, getting cruisers on a purchase schedule is not as simple as, hey, I've been working at that so that I can finally present a plan that works. Because I had to get new product in the door now. Like car 4 and car 6, those are both over 100,000 miles. They should be retired. But doing this will let me limp it till we get through the budget process. And then put one in the budget process. Because we order it a year ahead of time, we have to. We're never obligated to buy it until we get approval, right? So we would order a car for next year, and hopefully if that gets through the budget process instead of a warrant or a detail, then we'll be on schedule.
Sure.
We won't be having these issues.
Okay.
This is one of the last pieces of equipment I have on a replacement
Great.
schedule. We've done well with the rifles.
Yep.
We have fairly new firearms, sidearms, and all that. So that's really what part of this is to get us to the next step.
To John's point of trying to reserve ARPA for special projects, are there other funding sources that we could tap into for these car improvements that you can think of?
I mean, not the equipment, because you're replacing equipment. It's not new equipment.
Right.
I mean, I have no problem putting it in the operating budget as I have it. I just don't have it, but you need to understand at the end of the year. I mean, I'm glad to put it in and purchase it right out of my maintenance line. I don't have a problem with that, but I also don't want to get fired for it either. You know what I mean? Because one of the major benchmarks to judge a chief of police is how well they manage a big budget.
Sure.
So again, if you say pull it out of the budget, I'm in. I just need to know.
What's the maintenance line item, please?
Let's see, I think we're at 18,000 and we were about,
Yeah, but
What?
to be, I guess that's to be clear. Like some of the stuff that do I have to say officer or corporal? Corporal?
Just say Chris.
Chris.
I'm not big on my titles, it's okay.
Some of the stuff that Chris was talking about was not necessarily that should have been stuff that should have been
Oh, yeah.
easily able, like some of the safety stuff going through the intersection, like that wasn't a car breaking down, that was we knew about that stuff, that should be in the budget.
Yep.
Like that should come out of your budget. That I believe that the wrap, that should come out of your budget, like the
And if you
laptops.
overspend your maintenance line, you'll have to come to us and,
But
It doesn't
Sorry.
actually matter because they have the rest of their budget.
Exactly.
And we also have the rest of our budget.
and this
exactly.
was a big discussion that we had with
Yep.
BudCom
Yep.
last year,
Mostly
where
me.
with Letty last year, around the budgeting, where
some lines are gonna get
Some
overspent.
lines are gonna get overspent, like, that's part of
Life.
having a budget, and we're gonna deal with that, but really, this is a good example of what you were talking about, right?
Yep.
I think, from my
Yeah.
understanding.
I mean, yeah, like, yes.
So, I don't know, like, the surprise overage on maintenance stuff, like, I get it, I get that, and like, okay, but some of the other stuff, like, that's normal budgetary items. And it's just that, Chief, like, kind of this is me alone speaking as one member, but like, I just have this vision of being able to do these one-off special projects so that the town can actually get some, it's really hard to get revenue generating projects off the ground.
Sure.
Once you do kind of prove out this concept that the town can actually offer services and offset the tax impact, so you get more value-added services for the town and offset the
Oh, I get
tax
the
impact.
reasoning behind it.
So like, those are just really hard to get off the ground, right? So where I was just really hoping that we could go in that direction with some of these one-time funds. So like, that's been something that I've been lobbying for a little bit. So just so you understand where my perspective is, I'm not trying to be a thorn in the side here.
Oh, I don't take it that way. I mean, this is why I bring it to the governing body, to get the input and where your thoughts are at.
Yeah.
You know, that's why you're elected. To look at
And
things
if
that
there's
I
a
don't look
safety
at.
issue, we're all 100% in favor of that being
Oh,
fixed.
you've never displayed anything other than that,
Non-
so I'm not
It's a
taking.
non-issue.
I guess my other question would be, and this might just be more about how this board has typically operated. If we said, yep, we think this is a great idea, we think you should do this, and at the end of the year, his bottom line budget is in the negative because of some of these things we've approved, would that be seen as a problem?
Not to me. It means we need to potentially adjust our budget for the coming year. I mean, as long as it was for,
We're not supposed to look at each other.
as long as it was for
Well, I'm not
necessary
buying,
public safety
right, I'm not buying
spending.
Ferris wheels for a bag.
if-
I'm
yeah,
just-
if-
Right,
you
so
know what I
that
mean?
if at the end
If
of
you
the
have to
year,
fix the car, you gotta fix the
if at the end
car.
of the year, your
You're
your
over,
section of the
you had to
budget
fix the
is
car.
like minus $3,000, we can
so be it.
look at the maintenance line and be like, oh, that's right, we had these things that we had to fix and
Sure.
this needed to happen.
Right.
And we decided that those were important even if you weren't sure they were gonna fit.
And that was your whole point last year.
What my
Yeah.
whole point last year.
And that's fine. Open book here. I'm,
Yeah.
however we decide to pay for it, I'd like
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
That's really where I'm at.
Yep.
You know, so.
Gotcha. And Karen, the one item on that list that you think would make sense to source outside the budget would be the laptop or the computers. That would make sense. So maybe can we take action on that as a board? Because that would be,
I would like to make a motion.
there you go, sounds like a motion. For
New
the
cruiser?
two-
Geez, I didn't know that.
For the 2 patrol road workstations, which is approximately 3,000?
Is that
To come out of the
IT
30.
hardware.
IT hardware
32.
capital reserve.
32?
3,200.
So can you approve up to 3,500
I would love
out of
to
the
approve
IT
up to
hardware?
35.
Okay, we have a motion for 3,500 out of
IT hardware.
IT hardware CRF.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. And you have our blessing to do whatever else you need to for safety of the community out of your budget.
Love it.
I wanna,
Can that motion also say that we won't get in trouble when his budget goes over
I'm
in
happy,
December?
I'm happy,
We've talked about this too, Karen. It's kind of an old-fashioned thing. Like certain
Yes.
budgets are going to go over and certain are going to be under. As long as we think we
as
have-
long as
as long
we,
as
the
our
board,
total bottom line budget
but
does
as
not
long
go
as we, the
over what
board,
voters
understand
allowed,
that.
we're
Because
okay.
otherwise you end up padding every single budget for a just in case.
Yeah, and you know what?
Right, right.
No, I mean, listen, I'm gonna still spend the way I spend brutally, and hopefully I'll come in under budget.
Well, I'm
That
gonna
would
be honest
great.
with you.
And if you don't, you can explain to us what.
If
the
you're
cost
feeling
would be.
nervous about your budget, I would consider how important it is to you that your cars are uniform in wrapping.
Yep, I got you.
Yeah, agreed.
Because that,
Safety is above that.
Yep.
Sound good?
Sounds great to me.
And we don't need.
So do we
don't
need a
even
motion
to
for
make
this?
a motion for
Nope.
him to spend money
Out of my budget.
out of your budget. That's up to you. Yes. You have the power to do that.
Thank you very much for your time. I know that was a little convoluted, and
Yep.
I apologize.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
Sounds
Appreciate it.
good.
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris. All right, next on here, we have the procedure to appoint committees and boards. And I know there's been some confusion about this, which I have a little bit of trouble understanding. So just to restate for everyone, the idea behind this is we have found as reappointments have come up over the past couple of years that there is a lot of inconsistency, that the dates are here, there, and everywhere, and that there were different appointment times throughout the calendar year. It's been hard to keep track of. We have sometimes missed some boards have missed that they had people expiring, and it has just felt disorganized. So this was a two-part plan. The first part of the plan was to standardize the timing for all boards that had openings in a given calendar year into the summer, so that after the new select board was seated in the spring, they would get settled and we would do all of the board appointments in the summer. So that was the first part of this policy change. The second part was an idea to make the process more collaborative between the select board and the committee. Whereas instead of having two votes that took place in sort of series, we would do these conversations at once in front of the board in an open forum. So that is really the only changes that we are making here. We're trying to clean up the history of all the appointments, and it's going to take probably a couple years for it to get maximally cleaned up because some staggering has gotten off over the years. So Karen had basically made some suggested changes to our handbook under Section R, Appointments of Town Officials, that specifically states that all terms would now expire on June 30th, and that we would keep the same process we've been doing. 90 days prior to a term expiring, we would have the chair come to us with a position posting. We would all agree on it. We would post it. And after the end date, we would review all applications in conjunction with the chair or the whole committee. And then we also added a section here that once all appointments have been made, we would have an annual meeting or maybe a couple sessions where all new members and even people who need reminders would be officially trained on 91A, on conflicts of interest, and also on the website and how to use the website, how to update the website. So really those were the essential changes as I understand them. Did I state that to your understanding as well? Questions, comments from the board about those ideas or about what's written in this policy?
Would that last paragraph also capture using this room for meetings?
Yeah. the
Yeah, we
teams.
could add AV/website
Just
training.
streaming, yeah, just stream meeting.
Yeah, sure. So maybe we could adjust that last sentence to be AV training/website training. Okay. Any other questions or comments about this? So really the same process we've been doing now for a year and a half, but just standardizing timing and overtly stating with the training that we expect of newly appointed committee members. Any other comments about that? John, I'll give you a minute to finish reading over.
No, I'm good with it.
Are you good? Questions or concerns?
Thank you.
Anything else you think we're missing in this, Karen?
I don't think so.
Okay, so for this year specifically, given that it is June 18th, we will run a little bit beyond this. And so what we have been doing in the interim is we've been extending some people just temporarily out to the end of July so that we can, Letty and I and Jillian were just talking about making a Excel sheet and getting everything all organized. And so we will make sure that we understand who's on every board, when they all term off. Some people have indeterminate term off dates. And so for now, we have a couple of reappointments, I believe, that we need to do tonight to bridge a few people,
Yes.
right? Specifically ZBA.
ZBA, yes.
So we have two ZBAs here, Doug Cowie, who is a full member, and Ken Christensen, who is a full member of zoning. We need to extend them out, as we did with some other members, for conservation, out to July 31st, 2024. So I would be open to a motion for Doug Cowie and Ken Christensen to do those extensions.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor for Doug Cowie?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. All in favor for Ken Christensen?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So we will reappoint them temporarily to get them on the scheduled track. Have you you heard from any other boards if there's any other temporary bridge reappointments that we need to do? We already did conservation, we've done ZBA. Is there anybody else who is at risk of not having a quorum until we?
Library trustees, I believe, expire at the end of this month, but Janice, do you need the alternates in order to make your quorums for a month, or will you be okay with the trustees that you have?
Okay. And then just to clarify, which, what's your perceived timing for when we will have open postings for all of these various boards and when we will close them and when we will have those meetings?
In the packet, there is a cemetery trustee, library trustee, and conservation
Yep.
commission alternate postings.
Yep.
If you guys are agreeable to these were submitted by board chairs, and
Yep.
these would be ready for posting tomorrow.
Yep.
So that we could, get them in by, you say July 19th, but I would change it to July 12th, just so that you would be able to review them and potentially discuss them at July 16th meeting.
Okay.
Otherwise, it would have to wait until August because of your meeting cycle.
Yeah, so.
Yep.
It says several openings on this
Yep.
application, so should we change that to 3 for more specificity? Several is 3? Okay. The other issue I was speaking with Becky about before the meeting is that for conservation, there's 2 members that technically term off in 2024, Andy LaRoche and Brian Silva. And I believe you said, Becky, that one of them had either a December date or an indeterminate date, right? Yep. So. Yep. Right, so we will get these all onto the June 30th schedule for completeness. My question was, the conservation document we have in front of us says 1 full member and 2 alternates. But my question to Becky had been, shouldn't we just do both 2024 members and get them on the summer schedule rather than doing one at some later date in 2024?
Yes.
Yeah, that would make the most sense. I don't see any. Correct. If they're interested in being reappointed, yes. So if we would do Andy and Brian at the same time, and then for alternates, Doug, Rob, and Patrick are fine, although there was we probably need to modify those because by statute, they need to be 3 and not 1 year. It's been done by the board, so we can do that at our next meeting when we have everybody here. And then Michelle's position is turning over, and Jim Nishina stepped down, correct? Okay, so we've got those 2, so it's 2 and 2. Michelle and, okay, do you feel the need for 5 full alternates? Does that work best for your group?
That's a really big board.
That is a lot of alternates. It's more than any other group. Yeah. It's up to you. I mean, it's up to your board how many you feel you need, because I think it does say up to 5. Okay, but you're right. If we do Doug plus Michelle plus the resignation, that would be 3, 2 and 3. Okay. So we'll get everybody on the same schedule if possible. And then Karen, will we probably, so for some of these people who are 2025, for paperwork clarity, we should probably re-sign slips that puts everybody on June 30th and just clean everything up
Yep.
all at once. Perfect. Okay. For any that are going forward, we should clean them up to be summer expiration. Okay. So we'll get that. So we have cemetery, library, and conservation in front of us. What others do we need to get before us to 2 reappointments.
ZBA will be the only one, but I don't have an
ZBA.
official job posting for that one yet.
Okay. And we just temporarily reappointed. Just want to make sure we're not missing anything. Cemetery is in here.
Cemetery's in here.
Yep, library, we're good. ZBA, conservation, rec alternates, there's,
Those ones will expire in December. We can do
so
them
they should
now.
come to the summer too. And then regional association, same thing, there's 2 2024s on there. So we should discuss that maybe at our next meeting, how
If
we
you-
want to handle
How you
some
want
of
to handle
those.
subcommittees.
Is regional associations technically a subcommittee?
Mhm.
Subcommittee, okay.
And Econ Dev. the
As
same.
is Econ Dev, as is energy efficiency, as is communications, as is municipal building.
Yeah.
Those are all, so technically, those are all kind of on a different process. Okay, okay, so we don't necessarily have to deal with those now. So the only one outstanding here is rec alternate and ZBA, correct?
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna get this cleaned up. It's gonna be good.
I
Be a
would
few
like
growing
to propose a change to these documents before you post them, where
Sure.
instead of having Karen Clement, just have town administrator at brentwoodnh.gov, which will be a forwarding. And that means when you retire in a decade, can still keep using this posting.
Okay.
Unless you want people contacting you if they have questions about specifically the cemetery trustee alternates position.
That makes sense. Just prevents you from having to change it in the future.
In a 10 or 20 years when she retires. No time soon.
2036.
Okay.
Already planning ahead.
Just to be clear, no time soon.
And we're gonna
I'm not planning on
change
getting rid of you.
the
Just,
dates to July 12th on all of these.
yes.
We're gonna change, library to 3, we're gonna change Concom to 2 and 3, 2 full, 3 alternates. 2 full, 3 alternates, and we'll see what kind of applicants we get. Okay. Did the board have a chance to read over the cemetery, the library, and/or Concom statements? And does anyone have any alterations they feel need to be made to those before they're posted?
Just that one.
I thought the cemetery one was pretty general, didn't really, wasn't looking for any like specific skill sets, but I'm assuming that's appropriate for them,
Mhm.
and they feel good about that. The library one, I think, was appropriate, and I liked the Concom one, specifically the long list of potential skill sets that might be helpful to Concom. I thought that was a good ask for people with all those different skill sets.
The only because the other two mentioned it, does the library trustee have to be 18 years of age? 18?
Presumably, yes.
I mean, the other two specifically mentioned it, so that's why I was asking. I don't know.
Yeah, so. Okay, be reasonable.
The only reason it was noteworthy is because the other two specifically said you must be 18 years of age, so.
So that would be reasonable to add that. Okay. Any other alterations seen needed on these? If not, I'll take a motion to approve these 3 postings.
Can we just make the cemetery one, the word 18, we just write out the number? I just noticed that
Oh, instead of the
it's a
same.
little,
Sure.
I'm just, jump
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Nitpicky, I guess, but, motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
And I'm an aye, so we'll approve the cemetery posting, the library trustee alternate, and the conservation posting. And those will all be posted. And then we do need to officially approve the policy change to policy R section
Motion?
with the caveat that we're going to add the AV training as Letty had suggested. There's a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so we will update that wording. And it will take us, we will ask the public's patience. It will take us a little while to clean some of this up, and we may have to either extend some people's terms or play around with the terms a little bit to get optimal alternating, because right now things have gotten a little bit askew on that. Anything else you had on that?
Not on that, no.
Okay. So, do we have a guest for non-public? Or not for the guest?
The guest is not here, but Daphne would like to address the board.
Okay, so we'll do that during non-public. We will move to regular business, and Karen, we'll start with you. Do you have any regular business for the board?
I have the warrant for unlicensed dogs that I just need the board to sign for civil forfeitures.
No.
You had a personal.
So
I
does
think
this
this is the most ridiculous
say?
thing of all time, but it is ours.
It's RSA
statute.
driven.
This is how,
Yeah,
welcome
it's statutory
to New
requirement.
Hampshire.
Do we know approximately how many people are on our list this year?
There's about 190 dogs, which
And
is
what
less. Usually it's about 300. And
I-
John
I
is not
did
one of
pay
them.
mine.
Good job, Joe. All right, I will take a motion to sign the warrant for unlicensed dogs per RSA 466:14.
Oh, yeah. Motion?
I'll second it. That's fine.
You can
All in
second it
favor?
even if you.
Oh, I could.
He could. He's taking a stand.
This is my stand.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. That's a
Abstain this time?
No way. It's a hard stand.
Still a 2-1 voted.
2-1. It still passes.
Did you get that, Jillian?
I sure did.
Okay.
All right. What else do you have for us?
I have the PA inventory forms stating that the board will not be using inventory forms.
Talk to me about what that means in English.
That is a form that we would send to every resident that says, and they would have to list out every modification they have made to their home in a year in order for our assessment process, instead of relying on our building permits. We don't do this. We're going to do our building
Do
permits.
some towns do this?
Some towns do this. We did used to do this, and it is
Sounds extremely
a lot
labor
of time.
intensive and painful. Okay, questions or concerns about this?
You need a motion.
Yes.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Name of
Do we all need to sign that?
It looks like there's
Yes.
3 signature spaces on here.
Oh, thanks.
And lastly, I have an Fuller property. The bond bank is requiring an amendment to add in a Section 4 federal tax issues, basically just stating that we are a tax exempt organization, and they wanted specific language in the LOA stating that we are.
That is the only change.
That is, yep.
I'll take a motion to make that one change about federal tax exemption.
This is the change here underlined if you wanted to read it.
You guys want to read the change?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor? And I'm an aye, and it looks like it just needs to be signed by myself and Becky. 18th. Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay. We'll do any committee updates or other board business. John, we'll start with you.
We are on rec. We are looking to move forward with evaluating how much it will cost, and if we can find a way to get it into our budget, one way or the town's budget, one way or the other, to use the Olson Fields to put the former Olson Field where we put the new road.
Which
there's
is now open.
which is now open, which everyone should go and check it out. I mean, it's huge safety improvement. Check it out. Go experience it for yourself. The space that was formerly the Olson Field, we've had a couple of meetings about what we're going to do with that space. What it looks like now is that the most advantageous use of that space is going to be to put 2 tennis courts side by side on that space. We have the field can accommodate that size of a footprint for 2 tennis courts. And really, I was alluding to it in earlier discussions, but there are towns in the area that charge between $60 and $100 per person per season for individuals to play pickleball. And there are dozens and dozens and dozens of people who sign up to play in these pickleball leagues. Now, we would like for Brentwood to participate in that with 2 tennis courts. We would have space for 4 pickleball courts. And this is kind of step 1 of that enhanced revenue generation that we're on the rec commission really driving at. So how can we start to expand some of the particularly recreational, in this case, opportunities for town residents, and again, really try to like focus on having that center of community, in the unity that comes from something like that on that rec campus, on that rec facility. So we will come within the next couple of weeks to this board with a proposal for putting a footprint for a couple of tennis courts there, looking at using a mix of probably impact fees and ARPA in order to realize the revenue generation opportunities that we know are there. And I will bring you a spreadsheet.
Thank you.
for-
Well, because it's important to think about when revenue is coming in to offset an expense like that.
Absolutely. And I think it's a really exciting first step at driving toward what we know, taking advantage of what we know we have in this town. We have
Right.
so many awesome resources, and this is one of them.
And John, I think you had shared with me offline that at first there was some thought about putting a cover over that, a pavilion,
Yep.
but that is likely cost prohibitive at this point.
So we, in a perfect world, and this was discussed with the rec commission, we would really like to have a secondary pavilion space, which would really enhance the use of those courts and expand what we're able to do with it, make it more year round. So you can imagine a kind of a ice skating capacity for that type of a covered space on those tennis courts. When you have tennis courts and you try to put a pavilion over it, it has to be 16 to 20 feet high. That 16 to 20 foot high pavilion requires quite a bit more work and materials and equipment to do the installation, and it kind of like triples or quadruples the cost of what it would be a standard pavilion.
So that's on hold.
That's going to be on hold for a while.
I mean, bring those numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's worth thinking about what that would be, but
Yeah,
it's like that's not the priority at this point.
Yeah, the priority is demonstrate that we can generate revenue, demonstrate that we can enhance the services that we offer to the town, and demonstrate that we can kind of expand the types of activities and opportunities. And I am referring to beyond just stereotypical recreational activities. We can use this as a town campus type of an area.
Cool. Sounds good. Anything else that you have for us?
We're not scheduled to meet on Thursday as of right now. We just don't, we would like to have an economic development meeting this week on Thursday. It is our regularly scheduled meeting. It is unclear if we have a quorum as a result of summer.
Okay.
So it is posted. We will be here. We'll update at 6 o'clock. We'll update the town website and information if that is not going to go forward.
Okay. Sounds good. Letty?
Are you gonna do building committee?
Sure.
Okay, I can do two. All right, so I will do the communications committee. Had a meeting last Thursday. And at that time, they voted to recommend disbanding the committee in its current form. We accomplished a lot. The town Facebook, the town website, the AV system, like we've done a whole bunch, and the majority of the committee felt like that was kind of what we came together to do. We are all happy to continue working with everyone. But it made sense in our minds to create maybe a new committee with a new goal, if that's something that the town needed at this point.
What was the planned timing of sunsetting that committee? This summer?
We
or
voted
now?
at the meeting to disband.
Okay.
I don't know, like, the committee as a whole has not been working together recently, like, because it's mostly been smaller groups of people breaking off to work on specific things anyway, so
Right.
that would continue. The website specifically did come up, and we would obviously not just ghost you.
Right, but the entire committee meeting and having a quorum is not
Yep, and
necessarily
public
needed at this point.
Minutes and everything else. Yep.
We are endlessly thankful for those volunteers and all you have done. And I just love this. And even though Andy has showed me like 10 times how to do the old setup, it was so confusing. And you guys have done so much for us. I love the website.
It's been really interesting to.
So much volunteer time
So if
and
you
work.
go on and look at the town YouTube channel, there are between 50 and 100 people that watch every single meeting that's streamed.
Nice.
So I know for a lot of people, it was like, well, who cares about the blah, blah, blah meeting? Nobody's going to watch the blah, blah, blah. No, people do want to watch the conservation meeting. Like, people want to
Yeah.
have access to information. It's hard to get to these meetings. Having them recorded and available at a later time is
Yeah. it's
really a nice
wonderful.
service for them.
And did
Possible.
communications, I know we've had some loose conversations about making it a town policy that every meeting and subcommittee is live streamed. Has communications, did they discuss that or
We
want to
did.
bring that
So
forward?
I think other than the planning board, all of the other committees are technically subcommittees of this board. And as such, we could either, I mean, we can't really require anything because obviously like technological issues happen,
Sure.
but that there's an expectation that all of the meetings that happen in this room are live streamed.
And I think that it has been what's been happening
Yes.
for the most part, as people are getting used to
Yes.
AV training and things like that.
Yes. But like having some sort of policy that's like, yep, this is really something that we want to do.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if it makes sense because there is a select board member on most committees, having them trained up. Again, it's not hard.
You can put it in the handbook.
Right. I mean, as many people on every board who know how to work the
Yes.
AV is optimal, but you need one or two like champions on each board
Yes.
that feel comfortable with
Yep.
pushing the buttons.
Other things that have just been kind of percolating and are very much on my mind because I've disconnected from the internet twice while sitting here. At one point we talked about upgrading the internet. What?
I think there was an email, but it never officially came to the board, the request for us to think about updating our internet or going to FiOS, I want to say, or?
Yes, just fast.
Yes, I
faster.
had I had worked with Block 5. They were going to coordinate an upgrade with Comcast, and then I had emailed Mike at Fidium. That was the contact I had gotten from
Fidium, right.
Josh.
Yep.
He never responded, and his voicemail is strange, but I can follow up with him
Okay.
and get that going. The phones have all been converted
Right.
over to
Because
Comcast.
we had to do that, right?
Yep.
Was there an email at one point in the mail folder maybe?
That was for the phones and the alarm systems at the highway, the BRC, and the Grange Hall.
Moving everything over. Okay, so that's still on the list of potentially upgrading our internet. Anything else from communications?
I think that's it.
Anything else to
Trying to
report
think if
from
there's
other?
any. I was technically present at the planning board meeting, but I was not very helpful. We had a secondary presentation from. I was going to say Rebecca for some reason, the woman from RPC about the housing
yes.
survey and kind of what the final report on that's going to be. I highly recommend everyone go to look at that. There is a part of the web. So if you go to the website, under Town Projects, there's a section about the housing survey. You can see the results. Finalizing that, talked about how Jillian and Steph were able to get that application off in time.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Steph's our officer.
Yes.
Thank you. And then there was talk about what we wanted to do for the second half of this housing grant if we wanted to apply for it, because this was, again, just the initial
The first
kind
part.
of, yeah.
And that's something the planning board will decide and move forward on?
Yes, and if there's anything that the select board has to do, then they'll. I think that's.
Okay. For me, for municipal building committee, we did meet today. Chief Ventura did have a public forum last Monday. He said about 10 or so townspeople attended and had questions, comments, ideas, and that it was a helpful session to hear from interested parties. He's planning to do that approximately every month where the public can come and ask questions. We had some very good discussions about how we can optimize information sharing with the public, and the committee ended up deciding to do an FAQ, like a frequently asked questions, on the website for everything about the building, about all different options for moving the building, lots of questions that have come up, and that we would work on updating that over time and pointing people towards that. I think the chief is really committed to trying to have this be transparent and open and to get as much information out to the public as possible. So stay tuned for that information going up on the website. And then we are awaiting the completion of the feasibility study that will come back to that committee once it is complete, and we will move forward from there. Likely, I think August or so was when that thought was, and then we will see how things are going. I think there's still a hope to get this on a warrant for next year, and we are all working towards that goal. So other than that, no big updates there. In terms of Bud Committee, this Monday, we did our fire walkthrough and confirmed with Chief Byrd that there's no major budgetary changes expected from fire. And we got a nice tour around the building and got to see some of the great equipment that they have there, including some of the things that we have helped them out with for budgeting perspective the past couple of years. And had a good experience talking to him about several things, but did not anticipate any major budgetary changes from him. He did say that 2026, he may look towards doing overlapping 24-hour shifts with 2 people on call, but that is not anticipated for the next budget season. So we are just continuing to do our walkthroughs. I don't know what the next one is off the top of my head. We did police already, we did fire. Remember which the next one is?
Is it here?
It's rec, but let
Is
me
it
look.
rec? Yeah, so we're going through all the major departments as they have done for a few years of doing a walkthrough and talking to them about all their budgetary needs. It's been really helpful, I think, for everyone on the BudCom to be able to do that and just go in person and talk with the personnel
It
on
is rec
site.
on the 27th.
Rec, okay, so rec is the next one that is coming up. And those are open to the public. They are publicly published meetings. Anybody who's interested is welcome to come and attend those as well. And I think that was all that I had. Any other board business?
Yeah, short alibi, sorry. The next quarterly business
Oh, yeah.
breakfast will be in August. And the New Hampshire, the state of New Hampshire's Bureau of Economic Affairs, Director of Economic Development, his name is Chase Hagman. Chase has agreed to come and speak to us as the Director of Economic Development for the state. So pretty exciting opportunity when we get that scheduled. We don't have a scheduled date, but it'll be in August for our next business breakfast.
Great. You guys have been able to get some pretty good guests for
Yep.
those. It's wonderful. Anything else you have for us? I'll take a motion to adjourn. Oh, we do have
No,
a
we have
non-public with Daphne. Almost forgot about that. I'll take a motion to go into non-public for reputation.
Moved. Second.
All in favor?
Sorry.
And we have to do a roll call for that. So John?
Aye.
Letty?
Aye.
I'm an aye, so we'll go into non-public for reputation. Have a nice evening, everyone.